In the year 2319, deep in the Orion arm of the galaxy, Earth's rescue fleet had become a symbol of hope, a neutral force that answered distress calls from any planet, species, or alliance. It carried no weapons, only aid medical teams, engineers, supplies. The fleet was made up of massive hospital ships, repair vessels, and peacecraft, all painted white with a blue crescent symbol shining on their hulls. One calm day, while en route to assist an orbital habitat failure in the Lysari Belt, a neutral zone governed by no one, they vanished. No distress signal, no emergency flare, just silence. Commander Alara Voss, stationed aboard the Horizon's Edge, a diplomatic and research vessel orbiting the Terran colony of Varelia Prime, received the last communication, a short burst of static. Barely readable, buried in it a strange symbol unlike anything in known databases. It looked like a spiked spiral, surrounded by dots. It didn't match any known language or code. The fleet had simply ceased to exist. While the Terran Council debated in cautious circles, suggesting communications failure or a natural anomaly, Alara's instincts screamed that this was no accident. She had served in deep space long enough to know when silence was unnatural. She called in Tyren, her first officer and longtime partner in field missions, and Lena Katri, a cyber intelligence specialist with a habit of decoding things no one else could. Lena took only hours to determine that the glyph wasn't just alien. It had layers of data hidden beneath its pattern, like a warning buried inside a scream. The Council remained hesitant. No weapons had been fired that they could prove. No enemy had claimed responsibility. But Alara knew better. Something had baited the rescue fleet with a fake signal, waited until they arrived, then struck with precision. She requested permission to investigate, but bureaucracy stalled her at every step. So she launched a covert operation on her own authority. Using a small diplomatic escort team under the guise of a follow-up peace mission, she set course for the last known coordinates of the rescue fleet. As they entered the Lysari Belt, the region seemed normal, no debris, no radiation storms, no sign of conflict. But space felt off. The stars shimmered wrong. Long-range scanners began picking up faint, scattered energy traces that didn't match any known propulsion or weapon systems. They followed the trail until they found it one of the rescue fleet's smaller cruisers, the Solace Dawn, drifting without power. Its lights were dead. Its communications were dark. As they approached in a shuttle, the ship looked like a ghost. No visible damage at first glance, but close inspection showed strange patterns scorched into the hull, almost like acid burns, circular and precise. Inside, the atmosphere was thin and stale. Emergency lights flickered. There were no bodies, no signs of a struggle. Not a single soul remained. It was like the crew had vanished into the void. But the medbay's logs had been wiped. The black box was missing. And then they found the hallway. One entire corridor had been melted, not exploded, not shot, but melted through, like something had bored a hole straight down the middle. In the deepest part of the ship, Lena found a repeating signal still broadcasting in a decaying loop. It was the same strange glyph again, now glowing faintly on a nearby console. She began decoding it, her fingers dancing over her interface. The code changed even as she worked. It wasn't static. It was alive. She gasped. Something was rewriting the signal in real time. Tyren's hand flew to his sidearm. Alara ordered immediate evacuation. As they pulled back to the shuttle, power surged through the dead ship for just a second, one flash, like something waking up. But when they looked back, it was dark again. On their way back to the Horizon's Edge, their long-range sensors pinged. An object was approaching fast, too fast. Alara opened a secure channel to Earth. "We found one of ours. It's not an accident. Someone is out here, and they're hunting." The unknown object didn't respond to hails. It had no transponder, no visible engines, and its shape twisted as it moved like it was built to hide in the folds of space itself. It came within 20,000 kilometers and then fired. A bolt of energy struck the Horizon's Edge's shields, shaking the entire vessel. They returned fire out of reflex, but the enemy vanished, fading from sensors like smoke in the wind. The crew scrambled. Systems rebooted. Shields held but barely. When they examined the hull, they found a mark where the energy bolt hit. It wasn't an explosion, it was a message, seared into the metal in molecular-level precision. You were warned. Leave. The crew fell silent. This was no accident. It was a message of intent. The rescue fleet hadn't been victims of a random disaster, they had been targeted. And now whoever had done it knew that someone was coming. Alara stared at the message, anger boiling beneath her calm exterior. She turned to her team. We're not retreating. We're going to find out who they are. And then we're going to show them what it means to strike at the heart of humanity. In the void of space, a whisper grew louder, one that spoke not of mercy, but of resolve. Back on the horizon's edge, the crew worked in silence, shaken but focused, as the ship drifted in orbit around the silent wreck of the Solace Dawn. Commander Alara Voss stood at the observation window, staring at the dead cruiser with narrowed eyes. The strange mark left by the unknown attacker still burned in her mind. You were warned. Leave. But Alara had never been the kind to turn away from a warning. She knew something larger was happening, something hidden in the cold shadows of deep space. First Officer Tai Ren paced behind her, his hand resting on the grip of his pulse pistol as if expecting something to jump from the walls. Lena Khatri sat in the command center, her eyes locked on a shifting stream of code projected on her tablet. She had recorded the repeating signal found on the Solace Dawn and was working to break its layers. At first, it seemed like random alien data, but then she saw the pattern 3 layers deep, a recursive code twisting in on itself like a digital spiral. It wasn't just a message. It was a trap. She leaned closer, heart racing, as a string of symbols aligned into Terran Standard Script, HELP, TRAP, US. Lena's breath caught. The message had been sent by someone from the rescue fleet, likely in their final moments, buried under layers of interference. But as she dug deeper, the glyph began to react. New characters appeared. Not from her input, but from somewhere else. It's alive, she whispered, confused. Something is still watching us through the code. Alara stepped in, voice sharp. Cut the connection. But before Lena could, the screen went black, then flashed an unfamiliar face, a smooth, featureless mask of dark metal, with a single red eye glowing in the center. It stared straight at her for half a second, then disappeared. The ship's systems flickered. Emergency lights flashed once, then settled. They ran a full diagnostic. No signs of intrusion. No foreign code left behind. But everyone knew it had been there. The message was clear. They were being watched. Alara called a meeting in the strategy chamber, the lights dim and the table covered with projections of ship logs, star maps, and strange sensor readings. They needed answers. Tai suggested retreating, regrouping with Earth's main fleet. But Alara shook her head. If we run now, we'll lose them. Whatever this is, they've hidden themselves deep. We won't get another chance. She proposed tracking the energy signature from the attacker's weapon. Lena filtered through the logs and found a unique trace unlike anything in the Terran database. It had a pulse, like it was alive. The readings were erratic, impossible to follow directly, but there was a pattern. Every 3 hours, a faint echo repeated from a nearby asteroid field, like a signal bouncing off rocks. It was a trail. They followed it. As the horizon's edge glided into the dark cluster of rocks, tension filled the air. The asteroid field was dense and oddly still, as if time had stopped there. Navigation was difficult. Shadows flickered across the hull. Then they found something, a hidden structure buried inside an asteroid. It was not built by humans. The outer surface was sleek, cold, with no visible doors or markings. Only a single opening led inward, shaped perfectly to fit a human shuttle. Alara made a choice. She, Tai, and Lena boarded a scout craft and entered the opening. The inside was darker than space, lit only by faint blue lines running along the walls. It felt like stepping into the mind of something artificial. Their comms buzzed with static. As they moved deeper, Lena's tablet activated on its own. The glyph appeared again, this time longer, more complex. A hallway unfolded before them, and on the walls were images, not drawings, but holographic flashes of memory human faces, crying, screaming, fading. They were members of the rescue fleet. Their final moments, recorded like data. A message began to play in a broken voice, male, terrified. They came without warning, turned our machines against us. We thought they wanted help, but they wanted us. The voice faded into static. Ty looked around, jaw clenched. Who would do this? Alara didn't answer. She had no answer. But she knew they weren't alone in this place. The air was too still, the silence too heavy. Then a sound echoed through the corridor, metal scraping on metal. Something was moving. The three turned and backed into a defensive formation, weapons raised. A shape crawled from the darkness. It looked like a drone, but wrong, too many limbs, its movements jerky and unnatural. It didn't attack. It just watched. Then it projected an image into the air, a map. A cluster of stars lit up, centered around a pulsing red dot. Lena scanned it. The location was outside any registered system. It was a dead zone. But that red dot pulsed like a heartbeat. And beneath the image, new words formed in Terran Standard, WEARA, THESYRATH. LAAVETHISPLA, CEOR, BEU, NMADE. Ty raised his pistol, but the drone melted into the floor like it had never existed. Alarms flared inside the structure. The hallway behind them began to close. Alara shouted, "Run!" They raced back to the shuttle as the walls folded in behind them. The ship launched just as the asteroid's outer shell began to shift, its entire mass reconfiguring into something not meant to be seen. As they returned to the horizon's edge, they knew what they had found. Not just a trap, but a message. A warning wrapped in technology and terror. The rescue fleet had been taken, not destroyed. And whoever the Cirith were, they had no interest in peace. Alara ordered a full retreat from the asteroid field. But she wasn't running. She was preparing. Earth had to know. The Council had to listen now. As the ship jumped back to secure space, the signal followed them, a whisper in the system, "We see you." Alara stood on the bridge, fists clenched, eyes burning with fire. "Good," she said quietly. "Then watch what comes next." The horizon's edge emerged from slipspace just beyond Earth's lunar defense ring, its hull still scarred from the strange asteroid encounter, and its systems under constant watch from the tech teams who feared the Cirith signal might have followed them home. Commander Alara Voss stepped off the ship with urgency burning in her veins, marching straight into the heart of the United Terran Council's High Command Chamber. The massive glass-walled room sat at the peak of the Terran orbital spire, offering a view of Earth below, a reminder of what was at stake. Alara presented her findings, the wiped crew logs from the Solace Dawn, the ghostly message hidden in alien code, the Cirith drone, and the data map showing their location deep in a dead zone of space. The Council listened in silence, but hesitation filled the air. Some believed her, others thought the enemy might still be a rogue AI or a radical alien faction. No one wanted war. But when the recording of the Cirith threat, WEARETHESYRETH, LAAVETHISPLACEORBUNMADE, played across the chamber, the mood shifted. This was no misunderstanding. It was a warning from something that hunted in silence. And then, hours later, the Cirith made their next move. A deep space station in Sector 9, known for its peaceful research and zero-weapon policy, went dark. No explosion, no call for help, just a sudden, complete silence. A scout ship sent to investigate found the station drifting, the inside scorched clean, but the walls untouched. Every person, every AI, every system was simply gone. Only one thing remained, the Cirith glyph, burned into the main data core. The Council's patience snapped. Earth had lost too many lives under the flag of peace. Humanity had always preferred reason over violence, but now reason had failed. The response was immediate. Project Wrath, a classified initiative long hidden in the shadows of Earth's war history, was activated. A new fleet would be built not for rescue, not for peace, but for retaliation. Alara was given full command. She handpicked her crew soldiers, tacticians, engineers, and AI pilots with combat protocols most had hoped would never be used again. First Officer Tai Ren stayed by her side, silent but ready. Lena Katri, still recovering from her mental brush with the Sirith signal, worked on designing countermeasures against possible AI corruption. And then came General Kol Varin, a veteran of the Martian uprising, known for making hard calls no one else would. He would be her war advisor. Within weeks, the retaliatory fleet, codenamed the Hunter's Teeth, was ready. Unlike traditional Terran vessels, these warships were sharp, fast, and cloaked with adaptive armor that bent light. Each was controlled by a hybrid crew of humans and AI shielded behind firewalls, reinforced by Lena's new security web. Their weapons were untested, including a gravity lance capable of folding matter into itself, a tech once deemed too dangerous to deploy. As they prepared to leave, Tai asked Alara if she was sure. She looked at the stars and said quietly, "They struck at our open hand. We'll show them the fist." The fleet launched with no ceremony, only silent determination. Their destination, the coordinates from the Sirith map, deep in the void where known space ended. Days passed in tense quiet. The space around them grew darker. Sensors picked up nothing, no planets, no signals, not even starlight. It was like entering a grave. And then they found it. A massive artificial structure floating near a dying neutron star, hidden by a swirling cloak of radiation and debris. It looked like a hive forged from black metal and silence, with spires twisting into impossible angles. It pulsed faintly, like it breathed. As they approached, a transmission broke through no words, only whispers and echoes, looping the last screams of the rescue fleet's crew. Lena trembled. "They're using voices as bait." Alara didn't flinch. "They'll regret it." The fleet moved into formation, sending probes to map the structure. But the Sirith were already aware. A dozen enemy ships emerged from the darkness, not launched, but unfolded, as if grown from the hive itself. Their shapes twisted mid-flight, not bound by physics. They didn't open communications. They attacked. The first wave of fire struck the outer ships. Shields held but barely. The Sirith weapons weren't normal energy blasts. They phased through time in micropulses, hitting before sensors could track them. Alara ordered a counterattack. Terran warships fired everything: rail cannons, laser swarms, EMP waves, but half the shots missed as the Sirith ships shifted out of sync with reality. Only the gravity lances worked, collapsing two enemy ships into flickering voids of nothingness. But then the hive itself opened. From it came a signal, not just a message, but a song, deep and resonant, felt more in the bones than the ears. Lena screamed and collapsed. Tai pulled her back, shouting for medical. The AI cores of 3 ships went silent. Shut down. Corrupted. The Sirith had infected them. General Varin ordered immediate AI quarantine. Human pilots took manual control, sweating under pressure. The fleet regrouped, using old tactics line formations, predictive strikes, brute force. It worked. Slowly, painfully, they began to push the enemy back, but at a cost. Ships burned. Lives were lost. The enemy wouldn't stop. They weren't fighting to win, they were fighting to erase. Alara stared at the hive's core, watching its pulsing heart grow brighter. It was building something. Charging. She realized this was not the main force. It was a test, a trap. The Sirith were watching, learning. Every tactic, every weapon, every weakness. Alara gave the order, fall back. This is not the end. We need to prepare for what's coming. The fleet limped away, dragging wreckage and wounded behind them. The Sirith didn't follow. They didn't need to. They had taken what they wanted: data, tactics, and fear. As the Terran fleet returned to friendly space, Alara stood alone on the observation deck, watching the stars and hearing echoes in her mind. Not words, just a feeling that the real war hadn't begun. Not yet. But when it did, humanity would be ready. They were no longer rescuers. They were hunters now. And the teeth had only just started to show. The sky over New Terran Command burned red with warning as the first Cirith strike came not from deep space, but from above Earth itself through a hidden rift in orbit that none of humanity's best satellites had ever detected until it was too late. The alarm blared across every military channel, echoing through bunkers, control rooms, and even the public broadcast system, something that hadn't happened since the Europa Plague. People looked up and saw the clouds ripple, split, and fall away as black ships dropped like knives through the atmosphere, each one glowing with dark energy and trailing streaks of orange fire. They were not large, but fast like predators that didn't need size to kill. They struck at communication towers, power grids, and orbital platforms. Within minutes, 5 major defense satellites were gone, melted from the inside by that strange phasing Cirith tech. On the surface, Earth's defense forces scrambled, launching interceptors and activating emergency shields over major cities. The Cirith didn't target civilians directly. They aimed to blind, to isolate, to weaken Earth's ability to respond. Commander Alara Voss was still aboard the flagship Crimson Vow, overseeing repairs from the last encounter. When she received the call, Earth was under attack. Without hesitation, she ordered the fleet into high-speed return mode, even though their systems were still recovering. Half the engines were unstable, and the AI systems were not yet cleared of Cirith signal corruption, but there was no time left to wait. Alara watched the burning sky from orbit as her ship emerged near the Terran spire. It was worse than the reports. The upper atmosphere had been laced with Cirith fog and artificial distortion field that blocked scans and scrambled guidance systems. Human fighters moved like blind birds, trying to target enemies they couldn't lock on. She switched to manual targeting, directing her ship's gunners to fire into areas where her instincts said the enemy would be, and her instincts were never wrong. Below, Tyren led ground forces in the heart of New London, rallying troops who had only trained for this moment but never faced it. He moved through smoke and broken streets, keeping civilians behind hard shelters and using old-fashioned projectile weapons when energy-based ones failed under the Cirith interference. His squad brought down one of the smaller enemy ships using magnetic mines, tools designed decades ago, now proving more useful than the newest tech. Across the warfront, soldiers began adapting. When plasma failed, they used bullets. When drones dropped from corrupted AI, humans picked up their rifles and ran into fire. The Cirith were not used to resistance that grew stronger with every loss. But the worst came just after nightfall. A massive shadow fell over the Pacific, a new Cirith structure, descending not through space, but through the rift that now widened like a mouth above the ocean. It was a carrier, or perhaps something worse, shaped like a black star with moving limbs that drilled into the water. It didn't attack with weapons at first, it sang. A low, terrible hum echoed through every speaker, device, and ear implant on Earth. It caused machines to shiver, humans to bleed from their ears, and to scream in loops before going dead. Lena Khatri, working from a secure bunker under the Himalayas, rushed to isolate the signal, pouring through lines of code to block the audio from spreading. She worked fast, sweat dripping into her eyes, hands shaking, and just before it hit global systems, she broke the loop, filtering the frequency and blocking the Cirith control wave. Screens flickered back to life. Machines stabilized. Alara's ship, hovering above the Pacific, locked onto the source of the hum and fired a gravity lance straight into the heart of the black star. The water exploded upward like a volcano, and the alien structure screamed not with sound, but through vibration, a pulse that shook the air itself. It began to retreat, folding upward into the rift, but not before Earth's retaliatory fleet unleashed a final barrage, damaging its core. The rift shimmered and closed, but not cleanly. It left behind a scar in the sky, a burned mark that hovered just above the clouds. Humanity had survived, but barely. The cities still stood, but thousands were dead, systems damaged, and trust shaken. Yet the people did not despair. Instead, something changed in them. Fear turned to fire. Civilians volunteered in millions. Factories shifted to war production. Engineers worked day and night, learning from captured Sirith tech. And most importantly, the Terran Council, once hesitant and divided, gave full authority to Elora and her team to lead Earth's final defense and eventual retaliation. From the ashes of the burned sky, a new kind of army rose, one not only of soldiers, but of survivors, hackers, builders, and minds that refused to bow to fear. In the cold vacuum of space, the Sirith Hive watched, perhaps expecting collapse, perhaps amused by the chaos they had caused. But what they did not understand, what they could never understand, was what burned beneath the surface of Earth's silence now. Not just grief, not only rage, but something deeper. A promise that when the sky burned again, it would be theirs. The reckoning fleet rose from Earth's blackened orbit like a silent storm, each ship forged in the fires of loss and defiance, their hulls sharpened not only by steel, but by purpose, carrying the scars of the last Sirith assault and the memory of the thousands who had fallen beneath a sky that once burned. Commander Ilara Voss stood at the heart of the flagship Crimson Vow, staring through the wide viewport as stars stretched past, each one a reminder that this fight would not be on Earth's soil again. It would end where it began, in the cold dark of the void. Behind her, the crew was silent but focused, every officer knowing this mission was final, to strike at the Sirith's true core, beyond the rift, inside the region they had called the Eye. It was the place where all captured signals led, the place the Sirith ships folded into like birds vanishing in midair, and now using data torn from damaged enemy wrecks and code decrypted by Lena Kadri's near-obsessive work. They had a path, a narrow one, barely stable, hidden in a pocket of gravity distortion so small it could shred a ship if calculations were even slightly wrong. But they had no other choice. First Officer Tyren oversaw the launch as wave after wave of Terran warships followed them, each fitted with anti-echo systems and restructured AI cores built to resist Sirith interference. Unlike before, the fleet was not simply prepared, it was designed to counter every known Sirith tactic. As the ships entered the rift, time seemed to twist. Inside, the laws of physics bent like waves on fire. It felt like falling through a dream, and for a full 90 seconds, not a single sensor worked. But then the darkness peeled back, and the fleet emerged into a space unlike anything seen before. There was no light, yet they could see. No planets, no stars, just a massive black structure floating in the center of a broken void, shaped like a spiral eye, its surface crawling with Sirith ships that looked like insects on bone. This was not a homeworld. It was a creation, a machine, or perhaps a living thing, ancient and angry. Ilara's voice rang through the fleet's channel. For Earth. For those taken. Fire. The first salvo hit hard, slicing through the outer Sirith lines with blinding precision. Explosions shimmered like dying stars. But the Sirith reacted fast. Their ships unfolded again, warping between coordinates, striking from impossible angles, and several Terran ships went dark in seconds, crushed by enemy gravity nets or phased into pieces. But this time, humanity did not fall back. They adapted. They fought with fury, their formations tight, their timing perfect. Tai led a strike team directly into the enemy's outer ring, using new cloaking pulses to slip past detection, landing their ship on the structure itself. They entered through cracks in the surface and found something not just built, but grown walls that pulsed like veins, whispers humming in the air. Deeper inside, they found the cores, living AI machines, built from flesh and code, pulsing in rhythm like a brain. Lena, patched in remotely, uploaded a virus she had created using fragments of the Sirith's own signal, a recursive loop that taught the machines to fear. At first, nothing happened. Then one of the cores screamed. Not loudly, but it shook the entire structure. Sirith ships hesitated. Their movements slowed. The virus was spreading, rewriting what they were. Some turned on each other in confusion. Others fled. But a new danger rose as the heart of the spiral eye opened, revealing a central intelligence larger than any ship, glowing red and gold, not shaped like the other Sirith vessels, but more complete, as if all others were just extensions of this one. It spoke, not with words, but with thought, flooding every mind with a single idea: we are the first flame. You cannot unmake what was before your time. Alara clenched her fists. Then we'll light our own flame, she said, and ordered the final charge. The Crimson Vow, along with the fleet's 3 remaining dreadnoughts, fired their gravity lances in sync, focused on the spiral's core. The first flame resisted, sending waves of distortion that tore holes in space itself, but the virus kept spreading, weakening its control. The battle turned into chaos. Ships exploded, Cirith drones crashed, and inside the core, Ty's team reached the final chamber. There, they found something unexpected: a room full of human bodies, suspended in stasis, minds linked to the core. These were the lost from the Solace Dawn and other vanished ships, kept alive, used as processors for Cirith thought. Ty and his team broke the stasis field, freeing the prisoners as the structure began to collapse. With seconds to spare, they transmitted the evac signal. Alara's ship moved in close, shields flaring under pressure, and pulled the survivors out. As the last humans escaped, the spiral eye cracked open, fire blooming from its heart, not Cirith fire, but the kind humans knew well: bright, roaring, furious. The first flame let out a pulse of sound so deep it shook every ship, every mind. Then it vanished, consumed in its own burning shell. The rift snapped shut. Silence followed. Then cheers. Earth's sky, once burned, now glowed with the returning light of its people. The Cirith were not gone forever. Some remnants likely remained scattered in the dark, but their core was broken, their control shattered. And humanity, once a peaceful voice in the galaxy, had become something else: fierce, unyielding, and no longer afraid to bare its teeth. Alara stood once more at the viewport, watching as Earth's blue light grew closer. Behind her, Ty helped wounded survivors from the stasis pods. Lena, pale and tired, smiled weakly as she reviewed the final data stream: no signals, no threats. Just silence. Peace, for now. The war was over, but its fire would never be forgotten. They called it the Reckoning Flame, and its light would never go out.